combining functions. It's going to be on pages 21 and 22, and we're going to answer the question, how else can I build a new function? So for question 114, it says, consider the function c of x, which is 3, the quadratic function, which is x squared, and the linear function g of x, which is 2x plus 1. Rewrite each combination of functions as a new function and state whether the new function is constant, linear, or quadratic. Okay, so for part A, they want us to take the f of x, which is x squared, and add the c of x, which is 3. So we just write the x squared plus 3, and then we need to classify it as constant, linear, or quadratic. In this case, it has x to the second power, which makes it a quadratic. If we were to graph that, it's going to look like a parabola, like a U. Okay? What? Okay. For part B, they want us to take the c of x and multiply it by the f of x. So we're going to take the 3, multiply it by the x squared. It simplifies to 3x squared. It's nothing tricky. We don't need to do anything weird. Because we have the x squared in there, ends up being quadratic. We go to graph it. It's going to be a parabola. It's going to look like a U. Part C says, for d of x, they want us to take the g of x and subtract the c of x. So g of x is our 2x plus 1. Then we want to subtract c of x, which is 3. So we're going to simplify that. Nothing combines with the 2x, so we just rewrite it. And then we have 1 minus 3, which is minus 2, or 1 minus 3, which is minus 2. Then the x ends up being to the first power, so this one's going to be linear, meaning when we go to graph it, it's going to look like a line. And then part D, they want us to multiply the c of x times the g of x. So c of x is 3, and our g of x is 2x plus 1. So for this one, we need to distribute, right? Because we have two terms inside that set of parentheses. So 3 times 2x is 6x, and 3 times 1 is 3. That means our resulting expression is 6x plus 1. Our x term is to the first power, meaning it's linear. If we were to graph that, that's going to be a line, okay? Any questions on A, B, C, or D? They're pretty straightforward, okay? Here you add, here you multiply, here you subtract, here you multiply, okay? All right, go ahead and flip over to the top of page 23. At the top of page 23 is question 115. You're going to do most of this page in your groups of 4, while I do the first one for you. And it says, what will happen if you combine a quadratic function with a linear function? You will investigate this question using tables and graphs. Consider the two functions, f of x equals x squared, and the h of x equals 1/2 x minus 1. So once you break up into your groups, you need at least one computer to work in Desmos.com. You're going to fill in the table and the graphs. So on this graph up top, they're going to want you to graph the f of x, which I already graphed for you in pink. They're going to want you to graph the h of x, which I already graphed for you in brown. So you just need to add the j and the k. And then down at the bottom, there's a second graph. That one's going to have graph P, which you'll figure out, by the end, okay? All right, so to fill in the table, you're going to take each of these functions, and you're going to plug in the number that's over in the left-hand column, okay? So the first function is just your x squared. So you're going to take your value of negative 3 and you're going to square it. So negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Okay, that's where I got that number from. If you have a hard time with adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing, all those, you'll definitely just type it in your Desmos and it'll spit out the answer for you. Okay? In the next column is your h of x, which is 1/2 x plus 1. So you're going to take half of negative 3, add 1 to it, and you're going to get negative 0.5. Okay? Again, if you're not good with that, just type it into Desmos. It'll spit it out for you. Then in the next column, they want j of x, which is going to combine your f of x and your h of x. Your f of x was the first column, and your h of x is the second column. So you're going to take 9 plus negative 0.5, which is 8.5. And again, you can type it into Desmos if you need to. The next column, they're calling k of x, and it's where you take your f of x minus your h of x. So in this case, you're going to do 9 minus negative 0.5. So when you have minus a negative, it's really adding. So you really add the 9 plus the 0.5 to get 9.5. In the last column, they want you to find p of x. So you're going to multiply your f of x times your h of x. So you're going to take your calculator, multiply 9 times negative 0.5. In this case, it ends up being negative 4.5. Okay? So once you split up into your groups, maybe do the first one together, and then assign everybody in your group a different number. So somebody does negative 1, somebody does 0, so that you can get them all filled in. Okay? Then you're going to answer the questions. It says to complete the table, fill those in there. Then question C says add the new functions to your graph. So to this one, you're going to add J and K. And then it just says, what do you notice? And then describe the new functions. So what do they look like? Well, this one's obviously a parabola, and this one's obviously a line. But what do your new ones look like? What do J and K look like? Okay. Part D says, what will happen if you multiply a quadratic function by a linear function? And what do you predict the graph will look like? If you're not sure, then type it into Desmos, and it'll give you a picture of what it should look like. Then the last part, part E, says to complete the table, which you will already have done. Then they want you to graph P, the last column right here. And they want you to say, is it quadratic? Yes, it's quadratic. No, it's quadratic, depending on what it looks like. Okay?